Okay, hello all. Join me here for my first YouTube video with some outdoor cycling footage, and in for a little bit of a treat today. The first video is part of the Trough of Bowland ride that I've done for the past couple of years actually. It forms one of the 3 rides from the Rapha Cycling Club Triple Crown Challenge, which is a series of events that you essentially complete either on your own or in a small group, and you just tick them off over the course of about 6 weeks. So this was, I think, technically the 3rd ride in that series in 2020 North Edition. And as you can see from the image on the screen, the route effectively started in Clitheroe, takes in about 96 kilometres, 1,800 metres of elevation gain, and it's called the 7 because ultimately you take on 7 climbs as part of this route. If you are starting in Clitheroe for this route, I can wholeheartedly recommend that you check out the Green Jersey Cycling Cafe. Some really good people there and a nice cafe, and you'll no doubt meet people there that can give you the inside track on the best hills and the best routes around the Trough of Bowland area. So the main focus of this video is the actual Trough of Bowland climb, which is in the UK top 100 climbs. I believe it's number 75. So that actual climb comes in the second half of the video. If you're just interested in that segment, then jump along to the second half of the video and I'll put the timestamp below. I wanted to start it a little bit earlier because I think that when you turn onto the approach road to the Trough of Bowland segment, that you could be forgiven for thinking that it was all about the actual top 100 climb segment, but as you can see from what's on screen now, there are plenty of pitches up and around 10% and lots of rolling roads that lead you to the bottom of the actual climb. So I think that's worth being aware of, and there is actually another segment which is quite interesting, a longer segment called Trough of Bowland 3 times Cattlegrids, and that's a 4.2 kilometre segment where you actually start at one Cattlegrid until you get to the 3rd Cattlegrid, which is at the very top of the official segment. So I've included the coverage from that point. This whole ride came after quite a long Zwift race on the Saturday, so we're certainly not smashing any efforts today, that's for sure, not going for any PBs, but when you go up to the actual segment itself, you have to put in some effort because there are some pretty steep pitches there, so if you want to actually get up it at all, you've got to do some work, that's for sure. So looking at the screen, you can see the usual Garmin Verb overlays. So we've got the power on the large left dial, the cadence in RPM in the centre of that. You've then got the gradient that we're currently riding up, 4 or 5% at the moment, and the current elevation above sea level, 162 metres there. On the right hand side, we've got my heart rate in beat per minute and the current speed in kilometres per hour. And just in the top right, you've got our position on the current segment, I suppose there. Few reference points. My FTP at the point of this ride was around 320, and my maximum heart rate varies between about 190 and 200 depending upon how conditioned and fatigued I am. So just some reference points so you can get an idea of how hard I am working. So yeah, we're working our way along here. We do get joined actually fairly shortly by another rider who decided to come and say hello. Luckily he's socially distanced from us, which was appreciated in the times that we're in at the moment, but he actually rides around this area quite a lot, so I was able to have a little chat with him as we actually progressed through the route. As you can see, it's a sunny day, but it's pretty overcast, and I must admit my partner Laura spent the day in Clitheroe, just in the town whilst I was doing this ride, and she said it was beautifully sunny all day, whereas it probably took the first 2.5 hours of the ride in the hills for it actually to clear up properly. So yeah, I guess that's what happens when you take in any kind of elevation and hills and valleys and that sort of thing, really. So yeah, as mentioned before, it's fairly rolling. We are approaching the main climb shortly, but we've got a little bit of time to have a chat here to the rider that has just joined us. Just hear me conversing with him about the weather because, you know, we're British and that's what we do after all. Having done the usual thing, as many do when you meet someone new on the road, you promptly find them on Strava and befriend them, and was able to find that this is John Clegg, a rider and racer in the local area. So there's his Strava profile on the screen now. Go and check him out. We'll see him a bit more visually in the actual main climb, where I encourage him to go in front of me, not least of all because I wasn't smashing it today, but secondly I said, let's a GoPro on. Go and show us your form, you know, why not? Lovely little scenery here, you know, the sort of streams and rivers, and I really like it when you see water like that where you've got lots of rock formations coming out of it and you see the white of the water. I think it's really beautiful against the different coloured greens that you've got around here in it, and it is a lovely part of the world. Certainly as we get towards the main climb, you can just start to see ahead that you know, the hills start to become a bit more brown, a bit less green, a bit more barren, that's for sure, and that's a feature of a couple of the climbs in this area, I'd say. So we are now approaching the main meter to climb, and the main segment being just over 2 kilometers, averaging 6.2%, but it definitely ramps up, as you can see from the profile on the screen. You know, you're going at a fairly shallow gradient for the first kilometer, and it's the second kilometer where it really digs in. I'm just discussing with John there actually that it can be quite a treacherous descent if you're coming to this climb the other way. So I've done the Trough of Bowland climb this way twice, and I've done it from the other side once. And when we did it from the other side, it was a Rafa group ride, and I think we probably had the better part of 24 riders with us, and it's quite steep downhill, because we'll see that when we go steeply uphill shortly, but there's a couple of corners that are about 90 degrees, and they can just catch you out a little bit visually because of the way that the scenery extends quite a long way in front of you. And we had 2 riders that actually overcooked it and came off, and you literally dropped down a good 20 feet or so. Thankfully they weren't too badly injured and were able to carry on, but it's fairly well known apparently, and John was just letting me know here that there's a memorial on the right hand side coming up fairly soon for someone who did sadly lose their life coming down this climb. So if you are going to ride around this area, I mean, it's always worth taking caution, especially when you're taking in new descents, but especially on this Trough of Bowland segment. If you're coming from the other direction, then do be very aware that some of these corners are 90 degrees or more and can catch you out, especially visually if you're not used to the area. So you can just start to get the first impression of the climb ahead of you now. Again, we've not hit the real gradients yet, but we're sort of averaging around the 5% or so, but even then you do still get some little punches of, you know, 8, 9, 10%. There we go, that was the instruction given to John to feel free to show us his form on the climb. The video's rolling, as it were. So for me, this is the way I remember this climb quite a lot. Is from this corner onwards, little 90-degree left, which does pitch up at around, I think, around 13% or so, and that's when you know you're really starting to do the climb at that point. Again, even if you're just going out to get up the climb, this is where it starts to become more real. You can see there we're 11, 12, 13%. We're above 400 watts there, just getting round that corner ultimately, and clearly we're not going all out on it. We're just trying to get up it. You can see from the cadence there that I'm at the saddle, John's at the saddle there at 65 RPM. I run a compact 50-34 on the front, and I got 11-28 on the back, so I expect I was in the 28 at this point. John looking nicely synchronised with his Dolan bike and bib shorts and gear, sort of silver, grey, black. Looking very good, and even the sun's coming out just to make his frame sparkle that bit more, looking ever more resplendent. No sign of him being under duress here at all. So this is actually climb number 2 of the 7 on the route. So again, even more reason just to pace yourself slightly, knowing what's to come. I would argue that this is probably the second toughest in terms of maximum gradient that we get to, second only behind the penultimate climb of Jeffrey Hill, which I did also capture a little bit of, so that'll be coming in a later video, no doubt. But it's not the longest, that's for sure, so a bit more of a punchy effort than some of the other drags. There are a couple of climbs that are around the sort of 5k mark that you can do on this route, but again, a lot lower in terms of the average and peak gradient. So John doing his thing here and just stretching his legs out a little bit. And as usual, even though we're not on a massive effort day today, you put two cyclists on the same stretch of road, and they're not going to let each other run away with it, are they? So we just put a little bit of a burst in there to make sure we at least finish the climb on his wheel. We're all human after all, right? So that's the steepest bits behind us now. It's always nice when you have a climb that's got some steep pitches and you get on to 7 or 8% near the top and you think, this is basically flat, right? As you can see, we're just approaching 300 metres of elevation now, so we've probably gone up about 140 metres over the entirety of this climb. There's the sign for the upcoming Cattlegrid, which pretty much marks the end of this segment and also the end of the longer 4k segment, which is the 3 Cattlegrids of the Trough of Bowland. And now you've done this, you can enjoy a good 5k or so descent. So that's it pretty much for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. The weather did improve a little bit as the ride went on, and yeah, I enjoyed the rest of the climbs. But if you do enjoy this, there is going to be hopefully some more outdoor footage coming soon. I've captured a decent amount over the course of the summer, and I'm just cutting my teeth in terms of editing the videos and getting used to that side of things, really. Of course, there is going to be a regular Zwift race content, especially over the indoor season now. So expect 2 or even 3 races a week on the YouTube channel there. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to see more content, then hit that subscribe button. Until next time, cheers.